Assalamualaikum everyone. This is Huma Hamid. I'm the co-founder of PWIC and technical product manager by profession. And today I'm bringing another really exciting session for all of you. It's one of my it's the third session of this series, Pakistan Tech Summit, that is co-hosted by Ijad Labs and Pakistani Women in Computing and a number of other partner communities. So in today's session, I will be hosting one of my mentors. I'm really inspired by her journey and the work she has been doing. And I've let me introduce you, to the amazing guest that we have today. It's Sheba Najmi. Sheba is the founder of Code for Pakistan and executive director, and she's currently a senior design manager at LinkedIn. Welcome, Sheba.
Huma, thank you so much for having me. And it's actually really an honor to be interviewed or chatting with you because your journey yourself has been so inspiring. So thanks for having me.
Awesome, thank you. So before I ask Sheba to share her journey, I just wanted to mention that I interviewed Sheba 5 years ago. One of her common friends, we got connected, and I was doing a blog series for Pakistani Women of Inspiration, and that's how I met Sheba. And there were so many things that Sheba shared in that interview with me that got published as part of Open Islamabad blog series. And the stuff that Sheba was doing, it had a lasting impression and impact on me. So that's why I'm like really excited to have Sheba. Once again, we are having this chat after 5 years, and in these 5 years, Code for Pakistan has come a long way, and I can't wait to hear everything about your team and you've been doing. So let's start. Sheba, you're born and raised in Karachi, and then you came to the US for your education, and you have studied at Stanford. You did your bachelor's and master's from there, and then you went to Yahoo, and from there I'm kind of recapping what I know already, but we will, I'll let you actually connect all these dots. But for the audience, I just wanted to mention that Sheba has started her journey from Pakistan and all the way to Silicon Valley, starting at Stanford, working at Yahoo, doing Code for America fellowship, and then she decided to start Code for Pakistan. It's her way of giving back. So Sheba, how was the journey from Karachi to launching Code for Pakistan and then going back to Pakistan and doing this?
Yeah, so the journey, Huma, was not linear at all. So as you mentioned, I grew up in Karachi, and in school, I was good at the sciences. So obviously, uska matlab tha ki, I should be a doctor, right? So I studied at Aga Khan Medical University for a semester. And then after a semester, I applied for a scholarship and I came to the US. And I was studying math because sciences, if I didn't do medicine, then the other stuff that I was good at was math. And I came to Stanford and I tried on actually a few different majors. And I thought that, at some point I realized that I've always studied the hard sciences. I have this opportunity to study the humanities as well, right? And broaden my horizons. And so then I was really lucky to eventually find a major, which was an interdisciplinary program. Uska naam tha Symbolic Systems. And it's a unique program that Stanford offers, but it's basically computer science, philosophy, psychology, and linguistics. So it's computer science and cognitive science. So you study the way human beings think and the way computer systems think, and how we all create meaning. So this was really great for me because isme sciences bhi thi. So I wasn't letting my parents down entirely. Which is silly, but that's the way we were raised thinking. And at the same time, like I was learning a lot of new stuff that I didn't have the opportunity to study before. So usme symbolic systems mein people focus in a variety of different things. Some people focus in artificial intelligence. Some people focus in like natural language processing or human rationality or neuroscience. And I focused in human-computer interaction. And so because of that, then I went into, well, that journey was also not linear, but let me pause there for a second. So after my undergrad, I went back to Pakistan, and Pakistan mein human-computer interaction mein kuch nahi ho raha tha in this time. This was like 2002. So, but the exciting stuff that was happening in Pakistan at the time was that the news media was really burgeoning, and it had just gotten sort of independence from the state. And so I saw an opening in the newspaper, and I applied and somehow interviewed and became a news anchor at a TV station called Indus News in Karachi.
That's exciting.
So that was kind of different and fun. And I did that for less than a year. And then I came back to Stanford, and I did my master's in the same thing, symbolic systems. And because I focused in human-computer interaction, then my first job out of grad school was at Yahoo, where I was doing interaction design, which is also known as user experience design. So I was at Yahoo for 6.5 years, and learned a ton, worked on Yahoo Mail, which was exciting times. Lekin uske baad, hamesha se tha ki, I have to do something that feels like I'm using my skills to have social impact in the world. And so then I took a year off after Yahoo, and I tried to experiment with what that might mean. And so I even joined like a startup boot camp. I created with a few folks, I created this idea of a startup that would be focused on helping seniors connect, to their loved ones through technology. And then I discovered this organization, and this was really the pivotal moment, I would say, in my career journey, which is I discovered this organization called Code for America, which was a very new organization. Wo apne pehle saal mein thi us waqt. And Code for America was trying to pair technologists with government to improve public services and to make them user-centered. And I did not know anything about government. All I knew was that I wanted to marry social impact with technology. That's all I knew. And there wasn't a lot at that time. But Code for America offered a 1-year public service fellowship program, jisko wo pyar se kehte the Peace Corps for Geeks, which is, basically you take a year off at a 2/3 salary pay cut, and they'll take technologists from, Google, Yahoo, NASA, different places. And you use your skills to partner with different governments in different cities, and actually bring government into a new way of thinking, and bring our technical skills and design skills that are not generally present in government. So I applied, and I was really lucky to get that fellowship, and I spent a year partnered with the city and county of Honolulu, and learned a ton. We really use the lean startup methodology at Code for America, which was like, things don't have to be perfect. You just have to just figure out what your hypothesis is, and then go and test that. Actually, just before I started the Code for America fellowship program, I had gone back to Pakistan. This was at the end of 2011. And somebody introduced me to the late Sabine Mahmood in Karachi. And this was such another pivotal moment, because I met with Sabine in her office, and choti si meeting honi thi, but it went on for like an hour and a half or something. And Sabine was the kind of person who would be so excited by your idea, she would transfer that enthusiasm onto you. It would make you more excited about your idea than, before you'd had that conversation with her. And so I remember, she was ready to jump out of her chair. She immediately got it. She was like, हाँ, because I was trying to say कि ये, Pakistan mein I want to do this. So, and she was like, इसकी बहुत ज़रूरत है. आप जाएं, you spend your year, learn everything you can, do your fellowship, and then come back, and I will help you. And then, right before I did that fellowship program 1 year, learned a ton. And then just before I was going to come back to Pakistan, met with Jennifer Palka, who is the founder of Code for America, and I was talking with her. Okay, I want to go and do this thing in Pakistan, and I was explaining to her that Pakistan mein kitne masail hain, right? And government se logon ko interact karne mein kitne dhakke lagte hain, and just like things are not set up for from a citizen's perspective, right? And so us zamane mein there were no other international Code for civic tech organizations. So Jen was like listening to me, and then she's like, Sheba, wouldn't it be easier to start with like Code for Canada or something like that?
Right.
So anyway, then I came to Pakistan in early 2013, and was again very fortunate that friends of mine connected me to people like Jahan Ara, and Sabine was true to her word. She was like, that's great, you're back. So, and I wanted to test the hypothesis, is there even interest in people in Pakistan in using their skills towards, social services and civic services? So what we did, and I had zero money, right? Like, balki wo ek saal at Code for America, sare paise bhi khatam ho gaye the, but I came back, and Sabine was just so generous. She ran a co-working space / cafe called T2F, the second floor. So she said, okay, come here and do your hackathon. Because I said, okay, chalo, let me test the hypothesis by first doing a civic hackathon. And us zamane mein, they didn't used to be hackathons in Pakistan, and civic hackathon, ours was the very first. And there were no prizes. I didn't have any money. There were no winners. And also Sabine didn't believe in like winners and losers, right? It was like, especially when you're trying to do something for the good of your community. So, but she gave her space the entire weekend, her staff for free, her videographer, photographer, all of that. And then usse pehle I'd done a user experience design workshop in Lahore. And because that's what I do is user experience design. And, Nash, who ran Pring, like he had offered to sponsor, like we had one sponsor for the hackathon, which paid for the sandwiches, which is really good. Otherwise, Sabine would have paid for that herself too. And that's it. And, we just like ran the hackathon, and there was so much interest and jazba, from people in using their skills to improve, to do more than just complain. Like you have to, with technology, people have become empowered in a way that we weren't before. And especially with open source technology, right, which is kind of the premise of civic tech, is a lot of open source. So har koi, and it's not just technologists, but like designers, researchers, journalists, we even had doctors, any domain experts, can lend their expertise and use their skills to actually make a difference. So anyway, that hypothesis was checked, and then it was like, oh, okay, I guess I need to do something now. So that's how Code for Pakistan was created as a nonprofit.
Awesome. I mean, this is like amazing. And I just would like to recapture a few things that you mentioned, because now I'm in that space where, every single time we interview any, especially any women in tech, and their story usually starts with that, I was expected to be a doctor, but I decided not to be a doctor. And then the other option was to go into engineering. And I had a similar experience as well. Like I started in pre-med and then I switched. And when I interviewed last time, that's when it clicked. Oh, so it's not that everyone has already figured out what they are trying to do. It's a very, exploratory journey, and people get exposed to different experiences in life, and that's how they decide. So that was amazing. The other thing that really clicked was you mentioned about symbolic system, and I think now I think about it, like we have this like I work in tech and I see this gap, people who have both knowledge, right? The knowledge of technology and the understanding of how human behavior or interaction, how to, marry these two. So I think from that point of view, I think your, the line that you chose, that was really amazing. And I wouldn't be surprised if, that led to Code for Pakistan being such a multidisciplinary organization. And the third thing that really clicked was the having no money. Because when even with when we talk about PWIC, all the initial steps that we took, I remember doing like first session of PWIC in Pakistan, and it was all thanks to NIC Islamabad and everyone, all the network that I had.
Mm.
They came together and they started sponsoring. So this is just a message for everyone who is in similar boat right now and they're listening, that first of all, you not everything is already planned. It's a journey. You try things and you figure out. And then social entrepreneurship is definitely, it's different than doing other businesses. You may just start with your passion and then at some point you find a way to sustain it. Awesome. So we will talk about more all of these things. But Sheba, I was looking at, when we last had this conversation, um, you were really focused on two things at that point. One was the hackathon part of it, which I think emerged from your first try. Let's try the hypothesis, and then the fellowship program, which is something that Code for America is also doing. So I would like to get more into some of that, and I do have some stats that I would like to share. Right now, uh, 78 fellows have already graduated from the fellowship program, and it's on the site. You may have a different, more up to date number, but I'm just wondering, like, and Code for Pakistan is running 4 civic innovation labs in the country. And then there are multiple GitHub repositories, which I think you're referring to the open source part of it. So why don't we just take a deeper dive in Code for Pakistan journey and learn more about the program, about different things that you've been doing all of these years. I think it will be really interesting for the audience.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we need to update the stats because it's moving fast.
Things move really fast, so that's why I'm just referring to what I'm seeing. But
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure
thank you
you may have like really updated number. Yep.
totally. So yeah, Huma, I'd love to give a quick overview of our work and the goals we've been working towards. And if it's okay, like I think some of these visuals can really help if I can
Absolutely.
share.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so.
So while you figure that out, I just going to share another interesting story with the audience. So the day I was scheduled to have interview with Sheba, I was in Houston. It was last day of Grace Hopper conference in Houston, and we were going for this Friday dinner celebration. And there was this person, walking right next to me. I was on my own. I didn't have any friends or company when I was going for the celebration. And then there was another person, walking right next to me, and we just started talking to each other and like, hello, hi, how are you doing, and what do you do? And she mentioned that she was a Code for America fellow. I don't remember the name, but she mentioned that she was a Code for America fellow, and I got really excited, and I was like, wow, this is amazing. I'm actually interviewing a Code for America fellow tomorrow. And she was like, okay, who is that person that you're interviewing? And I was like, Sheba Najmi. And then instantly she knew who you were and the work that you were doing in Pakistan. So she mentioned that, wow, she's doing amazing stuff in Pakistan. I know Code for Pakistan. So I thought that was like such it was such a moment when I realized, wow, out of all these 12,000 people, I'm walking right next to a person who knows Sheba. And we didn't meet at that time, but it was just a coincidence. And that was really, really interesting in conversation.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's such a great story. Thanks. Thanks for sharing that. Yeah. So I assume you can see my screen?
Not yet. Yes, I can see now. Yes, we can see now. Okay. And it's amazing. We have 49 people watching live right now. And since this session is going to be recorded, so we are hoping a number of people will watch after the session, because it's nighttime in Pakistan and early morning in the US. So people are still joining and getting ready for the day.
Okay. And I know that there's so many different links for this live session that I think I shared like the YouTube link with some folks. So,
Awesome.
So let me first share some context of what the problem is that Code for Pakistan is trying to solve. So when I was growing up in Karachi, my father would, I don't know how, does this look familiar, Huma? My father would basically
This does.
send me to stand in line at the post office or to pay electricity bills, because the ladies' line was always shorter than the men's line. But even so, one thing that I witnessed over and over again was that interacting with any kind of government service was tedious and difficult, and it didn't feel like a service. Right? This problem, by the way, isn't unique to Pakistan. Wherever we live in the world, we live at least two lives with a huge discrepancy between them. Our private sector life and our public sector life. And most of the innovation happens in the private sector. So, for example, in our private sector lives, we can do online banking, and we can pay our bills online, and we can use Google Maps, etc. Right? But interacting with government services still frequently looks like this. And so this leads to a huge gap of mistrust between citizens and government. Citizens often, don't want to engage with government because this is painful and it's inefficient and it's bureaucratic, and especially for those who are poor, unko, they have to change like 3 buses to get to a destination, take the entire day off of work. Like, government just doesn't work for them in many, many cases. And at the same time, the government often doesn't have the capacity to respond to the growing demands of the public, and so they don't want to engage, and it works in these very siloed ways. So over the years, the government of Pakistan has made great strides towards using technology to improve several government services. For example, renewing a passport, I recently did that. It was, it was a breeze. But still, a lot more needs to be done to meet people's needs where they are. And this is where we see Code for Pakistan making meaningful interventions. So imagine the kind of efficiency and convenience for a citizen where you can find a life-saving drug in seconds, or you can file your taxes in minutes, or you can set up a business in hours and not be embroiled in countless cumbersome procedures, right? That's our ultimate vision. So Code for Pakistan is a nonprofit. It's a team of technologists and industry experts, many of whom volunteer their time. We also have a full-time staff, but like you were saying, when you start with a vision, really it was a ton of volunteers, and they still are to this day, that really help build this civic innovation ecosystem to improve the quality of life across Pakistan. So we're striving towards a Pakistan in which the government works for everyone seamlessly, and all citizens' needs are met where they are. So how do we do this? Well, as technologists, we have access to a way of thinking and technical skills and design skills and agile methodologies, that's not generally present in government. It's not the way government operates. So, but we have to bring those skills to partner with government in order to bridge that gap of innovation between the private and the public sectors. Basically, hum jo koshish kar rahe hain for the last 7 years is to create a culture where the delivery of government services is citizen-centered, where citizens themselves are engaged and involved in the creation of government services, and where there's like an ease of access and transparency and trust in government services, right? So by helping the government innovate in public services and improve government efficiency using technology, and then helping citizens and government work together to achieve this and create social impact, ultimately what we hope is to change the relationship between government and citizens in meaningful ways. Now, this is not going to happen overnight, right? Like, if it happens in my lifetime, like, that will be a huge win, but it has got to start now, because this is just no way to move forward otherwise. So at Code for Pakistan, we have 3 main pillars we work in: e-government, open government, and citizen engagement. And I won't go into all of these, all of the programs under these pillars, but I'll just talk about our flagship program that you asked about, which is listed here in the e-government pillar. But it really kind of crosses across all 3 pillars, because usme open government bhi aa jata hai, usme the fellows are citizens, that are engaged. And that's our KP Khyber Pakhtunkhwa Government Innovation Fellowship Program in partnership with the KP government and the World Bank. This fellowship program started 6 years ago in 2014 as a three-way partnership between Code for Pakistan, the KPIT board, and the World Bank. And the way it works is that Code for Pakistan creates and designs and runs and executes the program. And to your point, it was modeled after Code for America's fellowship program when I was a fellow, but it has very much been redesigned to the local context. And Code for Pakistan has a team of 4 amazing full-time staff members leading and managing the fellowship program on the ground. And they're also supported by our other program staff and our team in Islamabad. Mm-hmm. So there are 20 full-time fellows who partner with different government departments for 6 months. They're usually young professional technologists, and they are guided to follow the user-centered design process and use agile methodologies to create digital solutions. So I'll show you a short video that the KPIT board had created about the program. And it's over a year old, but it'll give you just a quick 1-minute overview from the government's perspective as to how they see the fellowship program fit into their work. Mm-hmm. It's amazing. So since 2014, we've run 5 cycles of the program, and currently the 6th cycle has already started. And in these 5 cycles, the fellows have created 28 digital solutions for 21 different government departments. And now there are 87 fellows that have already graduated from the program. And some of them are now working in the tech industry. Some of them have joined Code for Pakistan full-time, which is really exciting, you know, when we talk about like civic engagement. And some others actually joined government. So there's now that's a culture change in government that keeps going. And just in terms of what impact the fellowship has had, so over the course of just the last 3 years, some of the digital solutions developed under the fellowship program have been used by the government to respond to 3 million queries generated by the public. They facilitated like 14,000 citizens, users every week, approximately like 1 citizen a minute, and they've saved the government 90,000 hours in government time. A couple of our more successful projects, which I'll show you in a second, one of them is an e-registration portal for the KP Private Schools Regulatory Authority, and that alone has facilitated like 91,000 users in the last year and a half. And then another one I'll also show you, it's the Rabta app, which was developed for the KP Traffic Police, and that's facilitated nearly 600,000 users in the last couple of years. So in addition to these stats, these impact stats, I think the bigger thing is, when I take a step back, like our fellowship program is not just focused on building apps, but what it's doing is something very qualitative, which is, a little bit harder to measure. It's striving to change the culture of the government departments from within government. our fellows, like during the fellowship program, our management team and our fellows, they help train the government officials on new technologies. They engage them in the digital transformation process so that then those government employees then feel empowered to continue this process beyond the fellowship. And then what ends up happening is on many of the projects, the fellows work across different departments. So then they also play a critical role in breaking down silos and improving communication between different departments. And so you see government becoming more collaborative within itself, and like a more concerted, coordinated approach to citizen services. And then all the projects involve user research. Obviously, user research is a strong part of Code for America. That's my background is in user-centered design. So all these projects involve user research with actual citizens, so that government employees who are learning alongside the fellows, like they learn how to actually incorporate citizen feedback and be more user-centered in the way they create solutions. And I think those things, like, I'm super excited about, like, that culture change that is gradually, starting in government. So some of the recently developed solutions include an open data portal, which is to be launched very soon, a complaint app for the water and sanitation services, a grant distribution, a grant disbursement system, to facilitate religious minorities, and many more. I'll show you a couple of very short videos. And the first video that I'll show is the electronic school registration system for the Private Schools Regulatory Authority that I had mentioned earlier.
Mm-hmm.
घर में बैठ के लोग अपना डेटा एंटर कर देते हैं। इधर जो है ना, हम ऑनलाइन इस सिस्टम में डेटा को चेक करके उसकी जो सबसे इम्पॉर्टेंट चीज़ है कि जिसकी हम डेटा देख के डेटा क्लियर करके एक रजिस्ट्रेशन नंबर जनरेट कर देते हैं। फिर रजिस्ट्रेशन वाले जो है ना उसका एक सर्टिफिकेट बना के उनको दे देते हैं। तो टाइम जो है ना इसमें मैं तो समझता हूँ कि जो काम महीनों में होता था वो हमने घंटों में कर दिया। आईटी बोर्ड वालों ने जो है ना इसमें बहुत सपोर्ट दिया है, बहुत शॉर्ट टाइम में उसने इस सिस्टम को बना के दिया है। मैं एक दिन में मेरा काम जो है हो गया। अभी बहुत ही आसानी है पैसे का, हम बहुत ही ज्यादा शुक्रगुजार है। तो ये सिस्टम अगर इस तरह चलता रहा तो आगे प्राइवेट स्कूल्स के लिए भी और आसानी होगी। पहले प्राइवेट स्कूल एक स्कूल रजिस्टर होता तो दूसरा नहीं होता, अभी सब स्कूल के एक ही नजर से देखते हैं तो बहुत ही आसानी पैदा होगी।
So in the last 18 months, over 8,000 schools have now been registered using this system. And I wanted to share the voice of the citizen and also the government user on the actual impact that it has on a person's life. And then, Huma, if it's okay, I'll share one final.
Absolutely, go ahead. This is amazing.
Thank you. So this second video I'll show you, it conveys the voice actually of one of our fellows, and that's why I want to share this one, as well as the government partner. So this is the Rapta project. It's a mobile and web-based digital solutions for the KP Traffic Police Department. Oh, whoops. Let's see. There we go.
मेरे घर से पिशावर सड़क तक का रास्ता 5 मिनट का है, जो कि अब आधे घंटे का हो गया है। इसकी वजह बड़ी ये है कि ट्रैफिक ज़्यादा हो गई है और लोग गलत जगह पे पार्किंग करते हैं, बिना लाइसेंस के ड्राइव करते हैं। अभी भी आप देख सकते हैं कि मेरे पीछे कितना रश बना हुआ है।
Frequent traffic jam is one of the biggest issues faced by the resident of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. To solve this problem, we partnered with the KP Traffic Police Department and built a mobile application solution.
राब्ता ऐप से लोगों को बहुत सहूलत मिली है। इसमें हमने लाइसेंस प्रोसीजर और ड्राइविंग टेस्ट का मॉड्यूल रखा हुआ है, उससे वो लर्न भी कर सकते हैं, उससे प्रैक्टिस भी कर सकते हैं।
This app not only allows the public to file a complaint against the traffic violations, but also enables them to track the status of their traffic tickets and educates them about the traffic routes.
रूट अपडेट्स भी दिए गए हैं और से आप किसी भी वक्त किसी भी रूट की स्टेटस आप देख सकते हैं कि वहाँ पे रश है, जाम है, कोई मसला तो नहीं।
So far, the app has brought the transparency to the ticketing system, and now the department is providing most of their services through this app digitally.
This is amazing.
And this video is also like a year old. But Bilal, just wanted you to like meet our fellows, because these are, I mean, amazing technologists who, you know, can use their skills in so many different places and in so many different ways. But this is what we are both extremely grateful and really, really proud of these professional technologists to actually take some time to use their skills to improve government and improve government services. It has such an impact.
Mm-hmm.
So now in 2020, this year has been a pretty different year for everybody, but we've also made a number of significant changes to adapt the fellowship program, because traditionally the fellowship program brings together this cohort of 20 fellows co-working at Durshal Lab in Peshawar. But during the COVID-19 pandemic, we thought that the best course of action is to redesign the fellowship program to make sure, you know, our fellows are safe and everybody's safety is first. And then also we try to pivot it to focus on prioritizing support for some of the frontline government departments during the pandemic. So we redesigned the entire program to be run remotely, doing everything virtually, from team building to training to mentor sessions to user research to working with government partners to prototyping and product development. And the kind of the wonderful thing about this is that in this cycle, more than half of our fellows are from other cities in the KP province. They don't need to be Peshawar based.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, our team on the ground has been amazing, like super adaptive and flexible to embrace this. And so before the launch of this year's fellowship program, we organized a 3-day boot camp to equip the incoming fellows with the necessary skills to work from home.
Mm-hmm.
And then after this careful planning and restructuring, we were able to launch the 6th cycle of the KP Fellowship Program remotely on June 1st. So it's been almost a month. This year, we're partnering with 7 different government departments, including supporting the Department of Health on COVID relief activities. And we're actually doing 2 projects with the Department of Health this year. So one of our fellowship teams is working on the Integrated Performance Management System, which is a data collection and monitoring platform for COVID patients in KP. And then another team is working on digitizing the issuing and renewal and cancellation of pharmaceutical licenses to drugstores across KP. And that's just 2 of the projects. But here's a few photos of the kinds of activities we usually arrange during each cycle. This year, of course, they're going to be executed, or they are being executed remotely. And so, you know, there are training sessions, there are government trainings, there's Code for All. So let me talk about that for a second. So Code for Pakistan is a partner in the Code for All network of global civic tech organizations, such as Code for Africa, Code for Germany, Code for Mexico City, Code for the Caribbean, Code for America as well, Code for Japan and others. And we all share learnings and best practices with each other and get a ton of just support. You know, being a sole founder, when I started this, the thing that what happens is when you're a sole founder, I'm sure you know, is that your trials and tribulations are your own. Your victories are your own as well. You don't have, a lot of people to celebrate with, but it gets lonely. And so and civic tech work is really hard, right? So it's just so helpful to have this network of organizations that are all approaching similar problems, but in different ways in their own local context, and then just sharing and getting support, commiseration, but also learnings and best practices. So for example, we had launched our fellowship program in 2014. So when Code for Canada was starting a few years after that, they wanted to run launch a fellowship program, and they reached out to us, and we shared our curriculum and the way we run it, our experiences with them. And similarly, we've learned a ton from South Africa and Code for Poland on open data, because their focus is open data. And so, for the fellowship program, we also engage our Code for All partners to deliver sessions to the fellows and to the government officials as well. So that was a lot about the fellowship program. And with that, I'll stop here.
And I have a lot of questions, and then we are also seeing like live comments. But Sheba, this is amazing. I mean, I cannot imagine, the impact in the coming days. If people haven't started seeing the impact or started realizing that how big this is, I'm pretty sure they will start seeing that this is groundbreaking work. So not only I'm excited, I do have like a bunch of questions, and I think there are people also posting comments. So let's get to that. One question, I'll switch to Urdu now. एक सवाल जो मेरे ज़हन में बार बार आ रहा है वो, और शायद जो सुन रहे हैं लोग उनके भी आ रहा होगा कि why KPK, like why there are, out of all the provinces, how KPK became this role model, or the first one where you could launch all these programs. What was the combination of things that you were looking for, and then they worked out really well in KPK?
Yeah, it's a funny story, Huma, actually. So, I was, like I mentioned, I grew up in Karachi. So Karachi, when I started with the Karachi Civic Hackathon. Obviously, that's where I had a network as much as I had a network. So, uske baad, the second place that I was going to do a hackathon was Lahore, the second city, which made sense. Ke Lahore mein kafi sari cheezein ho rahi thi on that front. Now, it was a very serendipitous. You see, a lot of these things, Huma, like a lot of stuff in my life journey has not been planned. Things just happened. So what happened was that Sabine Mahmood got written up. The Civic Hackathon actually got written up in Wired magazine as like part of a centerpiece on Sabine and her. She had a huge contributions to the Civic Hackathon, and so somebody from the World Bank read that Wired magazine article and reached out to Sabine, and she said, inhone inka idea hai. So we talked to this person from the World Bank, and it turned out that person, Anna O'Donnell, her mandate was the KP province, and she was just getting started on the KP province. And so she said, "Kya aap aaye aur ye, please do this in Peshawar." And I was like, Peshawar? Like, I hadn't thought about that as my next step. But sure, I mean, that's where, the traction was. The other interesting thing was this was 2013. So there was a new government in the province. And it was a government that had a lot of appetite and a lot of hunger and a lot of desire. Like in their mandate, literally was transparency and civic engagement. And so kafi khaish thi, but it was such a new government, they didn't really know how to go about doing this, right? So they were willing to experiment, to take chances and like collaborate. They were super, super collaborative, which not all governments are, right? But they were super collaborative with, which I think is really essential, to be collaborative with the private sector and with civil society organizations. And so usme bhi lekin kafi time laga, but because of the World Bank sort of like brokering the relationship, although they didn't give funding, the World Bank was not funding it directly. It was just sort of they enabled the conversation to happen. And so the KPIT board had a new MD at that time, Mr. Siddiqullah, and he was like, I don't think he really understood like what this thing was about, right? Like what we did, but he was like, let's do this thing. Let's do it whatever it is that you're going to do. So again, we started with a hackathon there. And then from the hackathon, and this was like so low budget and low, like, fanfare. But that's kind of what the lean startup methodology is all about, right? Like, you just do the next thing that makes sense. And you hypothesis. And so we did this hackathon. And from that hackathon, us saal, what we had done, we've learned a ton, right? But that year, the winning teams, we said, "Ke aap join kare fellowship ko." And now they were university students in their like final year. So our first fellowship cycle was only 12 students, and they were only 3 days a week. They were part-time because they still had to finish school, their university. So, and then we learned and we iterated, and, and the fellowship itself, like after it proved it was having a lot of impact. Like basically, I think something around 70% of KPIT board's internal coding like projects are done by the fellowship. Or like projects that they do internal, meaning internal to the KP government. So, right. It's iterated, come a long way. We've learned a ton, but that's how it started in the KP province. And we've been extremely lucky to have found really good partners in the KP government, in the KP province. And so, it's a matter. Now, we've done a lot of work in Islamabad as well with the ICT administration, with the federal government and all of that. But that's how it all started in the KP province.
Awesome. And I think there are a couple of questions before we move on to the next one. And I'm also seeing some comments coming in. So with the fellowship program and all these projects available, as open source now, one question that I have is, how can जो मेरे जैसे लोग हैं या बहुत सारे जो even if I just talk about PWIC, we have a number of community members who are experts in different areas, and if they would like to participate, are these repositories, are these applications open for them to participate and contribute in the open source? Is that something that they can do?
Yeah, absolutely. So the vast majority of the work that we do is open source, because that's like a fundamental premise of civic tech is that you shouldn't reinvent the wheel, right? Like मसाइल जो हैं वो बहुत मुल्कों में same मसाइल हैं, and somebody has solved it in one place, like just sort of take that and adapt it to your local context. So Code for Pakistan ki GitHub has a ton of repositories. So yes, please, absolutely. I'll have like our email address and ways to contact us are all on one of these slides, and so I will share that. But we'd love to have people. That's the whole point of open source: is take it, make it better. Submit a pull request, like give it back, and please use it in your cities. But also contribute. Like we can help as well. So
right. The reason I wanted to bring this up, because we get a number of requests as part of the community where students are asking, how do we learn to do this? Or if they're looking for opportunities to transition from one domain to another domain, like from coding to design, or from testing to coding. So I think this is amazing. If if these repositories are accessible and open for contribution, I would highly encourage anyone listening, students and early career professionals, that this is probably where you can start. These are the projects that you want to get engaged. And you have already answered the question about if the fellowship program is with COVID, now it can happen remote. So if someone is sitting in maybe in Quetta or Lahore or Karachi, they can participate in the fellowship program from there.
And there are lots of different ways to participate. So essentially, like we have mentors, who conduct remote sessions. We have people who conduct training sessions, and actually they can be anywhere in the world to participate in that way. And then people who actually want to become fellows, I think for the KP province, their domicile has to be KP, but they can be, now that it's remote, they can be actually physically located anywhere. And so a ton of different ways to participate, and we're always looking for. I mean, we started as a volunteer organization. Now we have a great team of employees as well, but our volunteers have so much impact. So we'd love to have people join us.
Awesome. Um, I have briefly volunteered for Code for Pakistan because of the amazing work it's doing. So I definitely encourage other people, who are looking for similar opportunities. There's so much learning involved with, developing and building these solutions. So one last question, and I think Reshma also asked this question about transparency. So how was your experience, bringing all these digital solutions in the government space? Because traditionally, what I think and happens that it's very, the transformation, especially if it's digital and it's providing more transparency and create, start breaking silos, there's also a level of resistance that comes, with that transformation. So how was your experience in terms of introducing all these changes in government sector?
Yeah. Huma, let me talk about like open government for a second.
Yes.
Through. So, we believe in a government that is accessible to all and that empowers its citizens through transparency, as you're saying, which is open government is one of our key pillars. And so under this pillar, we've worked on various initiatives, which include 3 open data portals. One is with the ICT administration in Islamabad, which our Islamabad Civic Innovation Lab worked on. So we have these civic innovation labs that are these community groups of volunteers that get together, and they don't have to be technologists. They can also be like researchers, designers, journalists, doctors, anybody that has a desire to contribute their expertise and their skills to making their communities better. And the Civic Innovation Labs partner with government, they partner with other civil society organizations, and they partner with the private sector. And so our 2 most active Civic Innovation Labs right now are in Islamabad and in Peshawar. So in Islamabad, the Islamabad Civic Innovation Lab worked on this open data portal called Open Asterisk with the ICT administration. And there are 2 other open data portals that we created, our fellows created with the KP government. One was with the Bureau of Statistics, and more recently, it's with the Performance Management and Reforms Unit, which is going to be launched very soon. And it's already got 1,200 data sets on it. By the time of launch, hopefully there will even be more. And then we also try to train both the government employees as well as provide trainings, in our civic ecosystem for how to use open data and what does it mean, to have open data, right? Because it's so empowering. It is, if you can see yourself, okay, what is the government, how are the services and the operations of the government actually performing? Then you have a basis to actually say, acha, is cheez ko improvement ki zarurat hai, is cheez ko, then you can hold government accountable, but also contribute to government. So we've done an open data scrape-a-thon, we've done open data trainings and things like that. And we've also helped the KP government draft Pakistan's first open data strategy, which will be presented to the cabinet very soon. So, and this is just the government promo about the open data portal that is going to be launching in partnership with the KP Performance Management and Reforms Unit. And so, some other things that we've done. Basically, our Islamabad Civic Innovation Lab collaborated with a civil society organization called the Center for Governance and Public Accountability. So we work a lot with other partner organizations as well. And they developed a portal called Legis, which you can check out. It's actually live at legis.codeforpakistan.org. And it monitors the performance of legislators from the Khyber Pakhtunkhwa province so that we can make our elected representatives more accountable. And it evaluates the legislators' performance based on their attendance, their participation in bills and resolutions and other activities. So, in terms of transparency and open government and open data, we're seeing a lot more appetite. Like I said, there's already 1,200 data sets before we even launched that KP data portal. So, the main thing is sort of also teaching them and training them, okay, how do you keep this? It's not just a snapshot in time, but how do you keep this updated? How do you, technically, how do you scrub and clean the data and put an API out for it, as opposed to just having, a PDF or something like that. So, there's the technical aspect of it, but I think that what we're seeing, which is really cool, is that the desire is there. And having said that, it's never personally identifying information, right? Like, you don't want to give out citizens' information or anything like that. So,
right.
But yeah, it's that's the kind of stuff we're doing in the open government realm.
Awesome. So, do we have more slides, Sheba, or?
We do, but yeah, it's fine. I think we'll roll with whatever it is that.
Okay. Yeah. So the next question that I have is, I mean, this is amazing. It's and somebody else asked the question this as well. So all these solutions that we are currently building for KPK and, for example, for in Islamabad, do you think that they can just be replicated in other either institutes, government institutes, or other provinces?
Yeah, so the absolutely, meaning in terms of the application, absolutely. But the technology is not the rocket science part of it, right? The chakkar ye hota hai ki what you need is all of the stuff on the back end, so to speak, which is that you need for example, you need the underlying data, right? So you need access to like any publicly available data or anything like that. Secondly, there are lots of different pieces and a lot of different systems that are needed. I'll give you an example of one of our early learnings, right? In our first fellowship cycle, we created an application called No Kunda, jisme people can basically take let me see if I should get out of the screen share. People can basically take, sorry, Huma, give me a second to see if I
think I think you've already stopped that. So all
right, cool.
Yeah.
So basically what happens is that the idea was, it's a citizen reporting application where people can just take a photo of, kunda hota hai, jaise ki aap kisi se electricity you can steal basically from a neighbor by putting a hanger or something like that, right, on an electricity line.
Right.
So what this application was supposed to be was a citizen reporting application. People can take a photo. It's an app, an Android app. People can take a photo and report ke yahan pe kunda laga hua hai, and and then the authorities would presumably follow up on it. Well, here's the thing: we realized that this entire time we were working with, I think, the Department of Energy, Power and Energy on this, who thought it was a great idea, and we built this application, and then afterwards we realized, like, actually the people that have the power to take down those wires is a different organization, and I'm forgetting the name, but it's like the equivalent of WAPDA in Karachi, like basically an organization that actually has the authority to go down and take down these kundas, and they had not been involved in the process from the beginning. So at the very end, we realized actually those are the folks, and the Department of Energy and Power hadn't told us this. And so then by the time we went to them, when you go to somebody with a prepackaged solution and you're like, here, please take this, they have no incentive to take it on because they were not stakeholders from the very beginning. They were not brought along in the process. Their opinion, I mean, they know so much, they're domain experts, right? And their opinion was not asked for and taken into account throughout the process. So that application didn't go anywhere because, I mean, log report to kar denge, but then people are going to stop reporting if there's no action actually being taken on it, and there's no two-way communication, right? Which is a big problem with any kind of citizen reporting application, by the way. So anyway, so essentially one of our big learnings there was it's really all about all of that stuff on the human scale on the back end, right? Like, it's making sure that those government departments are coming along, they're bought in, making sure we understand what the entire journey is of this process. What are all the touch points? Which are all the departments that are going to need to have a stake in it and talk to them? And so, so again, it's easy to take an application, redeploy it, the code is there, but it's not going to be that useful unless that entire thing is mapped out and those folks are brought along in the journey. And so that's what we really try to do, is bring them along.
Awesome. All right, so let's talk a little bit about hackathons. Code for Pakistan started with hackathons, and I do remember that you mentioned that one of the applications named Savari was actually was part of Code for Pakistan hackathon, and then Savari was then acquired by Careem, and we all know that now Careem is part of it's Uber, right? So journey from Savari to Careem to Uber. So how important it is for these ideas to come out, and what's the role of hackathons in bringing those ideas out?
Yeah. So I love that you brought up that story. And I'll just quickly share that story, which is
Go ahead.
When we were doing the Lahore Civic Hackathon in, I think it was January 2014, we had asked people to apply with their ideas, because they'd be I don't know, us zamane mein 300, now 500 people apply to our hackathons, and we want to make sure that the people that are coming in are truly committed and dedicated, because itni space nahi hoti hai. So people had applied, and one of the people who had applied was this woman named Madiha, and when she had applied with her idea was like creating an inter-company sports competition. I still remember that, which, so then when we were launching the hackathon, I explained what civic tech was and what it meant to have civic services and government services. So then she realized that this isn't exactly like, social impact civic service type of thing. So then she pitched a different idea. She changed her idea on the fly, and she pitched a different idea, which was in sort of like the social domain. And it was a car share, ride pool idea. Now, in that hackathon, we had said, you have to form a team of at least 3 to 5 people, or the team size should be 3 to 5. And there was one other guy who had joined her, but wo dono, I remember at one point, muh latka ke baithe the, because they hadn't found a third person to create a team. And then there was somebody from this other team which had 5 people, and he thought, okay, no, that idea is worth supporting. So then he came and he joined them, and that's how they formed this team, and they worked on Savari. And this was a weekend hackathon project for Madiha. She'd come in with a different idea entirely, right? Which was an inter-company sports competition. But she was, Savari won the audience favorite award, and she was just so ignited by this. That's what I think that the hackathons are really, really great at. It's not about the solution, even though Savari actually is one of the rare ones that actually had a full life cycle all the way to Careem to Uber. But it's really about igniting people, and it's bringing community together and kickstarting them in ways that makes them civically engaged that they wouldn't otherwise be, right? And it's capturing onto that, that weekend of excitement. And so then, Madiha's story, which is then, she worked at RBSoft, and her manager, Yasir, but she was a super, super amazing, supportive CEO. And he said, Ketika, you work on your idea while still working at RBSoft, and he really supported her in that. And then, she believed in it enough, and now you know the story, and Madiha herself, her own journey, trajectory, and I think now she's in, I want to say, Germany. But so what I think came out of, and what comes out of a lot of these hackathons is that that ignite, that that spark, and that kind of people coming together and being forever changed. And it's low, it's just a weekend, but then, yeah. So anyway, so we've seen a bunch of that, like our former president of Code for Pakistan actually participated in one of these hackathons, and then, stepped up to become super, super civically engaged. And he started the Islamabad Civic Innovation Lab, and a lot of these things. So, yeah, that's kind of what I think civic hackathons are really great at, is the people.
Awesome. One leading question on the hackathons before we move on to the next one is, are there any specific type of ideas that that Code for Pakistan look for when people are joining these hackathons? Like, is there a specific domain that you prefer, or anyone can come up with any type of idea?
Yeah, so what I love to see is a problem, not so much of an idea, but sort of what is the problem that we want to solve, and be really clear on the problem, and have that problem be well researched, so that you understand, okay, is problem mein kya considerations hain, right? And yeah, essentially, if the problem is really well thought through, for example, like I said, the no kunda example, it's really easy to say कि यहाँ पे kunde की citizens report कर दें and then something will happen. Well, that something will happen needs a lot of research, right? And
Right.
so as much as this thing is well researched, I think that's what's really, really compelling. And then the solution of it just depends on what it is that you found out about the problem, right? And then people, and the solution changes, right? Like it should iterate based on as you learn more and more and more. So it's less about the solution, it's more about, well, how much do you know about the problem that you're trying to solve? So we do a number of civic hackathons. In fact, our annual civic hackathon is coming up, I think in September, October, and it will be done as an online apps challenge. But sometimes we do very thematic civic hackathons. For example, we've done, I think, 3 SDG hackathons, which are Sustainable Development Goals hackathons, in partnership with Ignite and PTA and Jazz. And so the focus is on sustainable development goals, right? Like Pakistan's SDGs and how do we achieve those. Sometimes we'll do very thematic. Huma, I really love how we did the Open Source Day for Women at Karachi together, and you ran that whole thing. So that one is very focused on, okay, and that was more of a workshop and a hack day. We've done write-a-thons, civic write-a-thons. We've done open data scrape-a-thons where we're teaching people what to do with open data and give them a theme and things like that. So sometimes they're thematic, but sometimes they're more open-ended.
Awesome. Yeah. So let's move on to the recent. We are going through a pandemic. Everything has gone virtual, and what the thing that hit me most was how inadequate our global health and education and all these things that connect us globally. It was so obvious that as at least the technology we were not there yet. So moving on to COVID, the situation that is right now in Pakistan and pretty much in all different countries. You mentioned that Code for Pakistan is also participating in some of the digital health initiatives, and particularly with COVID. So would you like to share something about that and what Code for Pakistan is doing and how it's helping the government?
Yeah, absolutely. So in terms of the COVID response, and again, this has been like a lot of adaptation pretty fast. Hopefully you can see my screen.
It has, yes, okay. I can see it.
So we've done a few different things. So Code for Pakistan's core technical team worked with the Digital Pakistan team to develop a COVID-19 dashboard so that data about the spread of coronavirus is accessible to citizens in a clear and timely manner. So our team helped streamline the data entry process, to simplify the data collection on COVID cases for the National Institute of Health, whose data feeds into the dashboard. Uske alawa, in collaboration, again, with Digital Pakistan and some other partners, we also helped develop a telehealth platform, which was recently launched by the Government of Pakistan, the Ministry of National Health Services, and Digital Pakistan. So obviously during COVID times, like the need for telehealth has become pressing. And what this platform does is it connects citizens with volunteer doctors for professional medical guidance. Then we're also helping maintain and manage the Pakistan government's official COVID WhatsApp bot. And usme do pieces hain. One is that using this, citizens can get information about coronavirus prevention and symptoms, and also find labs for testing. And then also healthcare workers can submit complaints about shortage of like PPEs or N95 masks or ventilators or beds, etc., which are then escalated to the National Command Operations Center, NCOC.
Amazing.
And then the last one that I'll mention is a COVID resource management dashboard that our team has been building in partnership with IBM. And the goal of this platform is to crowdsource and curate information that's validated about resources and services that are relevant to citizens in the time of the COVID pandemic. So for example, it'll provide information about resources such as medical supplies, medical facilities kahan hain, donor organizations kaun si hain, government offices, food delivery services, medicine delivery services, burial services, general stores, etc. So initially, it's focused on verified content from Islamabad and Rawalpindi, and in the future, it's expected to expand to other cities as well, and it's live, so you can check it out at pakistanresources.ushahidi.io. Yeah, so those are some of the kinds of things that we're working on besides what our fellows are working on, which I mentioned earlier as well.
This is amazing. I mean, when I do remember when, when this whole thing started, everyone just went into this, let's find solutions. And it's really exciting to see some of these solutions are actually going live. Before we go to the last question, but how do you manage all of this, Sheba? You've been working full time at LinkedIn. You're a senior design manager, and from your LinkedIn feed, I could tell that you're such an amazing manager as well. Like you're being part of all the team building activities and doing stuff over there. So being here in the US and having all these teams and projects, literally you're taking, all the hard stuff on your plate. So how do you manage all of this? Like, what's the secret behind that?
No, so I'm incredibly grateful and lucky that there is an awesome team on the ground in Pakistan that is the one that's actually doing all of this work, right? Like I mostly am just trying to provide like some strategic direction or help out in some specific things, but the entire credit goes to the team. It didn't start out this way. Like when I started, so in case anybody is thinking of what happens when you're first starting, when I started Code for Pakistan, to pehle, I would say 1.5 saal, maybe 2 years was incredibly hard. And us waqt I was not doing anything else. I was just doing freelance work, freelance consulting, user experience design and stuff like that. I'd even tried to, I worked at a startup heading up product, and it was just too much because Code for Pakistan was in its infancy and it really it didn't have a team. It didn't have budget, and it needed me to really be extremely hands-on. So the first few years, that was definitely like the pendulum was a lot of my time was just spent on Code for Pakistan. Now, extremely lucky, 7 years in, there's an incredible team of both full-time, team members and also some incredible, like very senior professionals who are volunteers, like our president and other folks at Code for Pakistan. So really grateful to the team. And yes, I mean, LinkedIn is very busy. I've been working 14-hour days for the last 8 months, just LinkedIn work. So on weekends, evenings and weekends, I will, work with Code for Pakistan and do some work there. But yeah, just it takes a village, and it's not just the core Code for Pakistan team. It's also everybody, people like yourself, Huma, who have contributed so much to Code for Pakistan over time, but not just Code for Pakistan, the civic innovation ecosystem, and other things that you're doing, like, bringing women into computing and all of that. Like all of this stuff is really incredibly powerful. So it really is a village that does this together.
I'm glad that you shared it, and thank you so much. I do remember asking you this question when PWIC was still in initial phases, and I was like, Sheba, how do we do all of this stuff? And you did share with me as well as an advice that a lot of stuff that you will have to build the foundation before anyone else can come in and start participating. So this is something that I hear a lot of people who are trying to do similar stuff and they're trying to go into this founder mode. If you're planning on building something from scratch, just embrace for a lot of getting a lot of work done by yourself. Like I have learned a ton just setting up PWIC. So that's amazing. Okay, so we let's go to the last question. I think this conversation can go on forever, and I'm loving this conversation. I'm sure people can tell the energy back and forth. But with this, all these initiatives that that Code for Pakistan is running in Pakistan, and we are also seeing Digital Pakistan as one of the priorities that government has defined. So what's next? What's next for in civic innovation? What's next for public sector? Which is, in my view, it's one of the it doesn't have the kind of attention that it should have from the tech industry. So where do you see the future going in technology and in this whole space? So if you could share something about that.
Sure. Yeah. So the good news is that now, as compared to 7 years ago when I was starting Code for Pakistan, उस वक्त तो civic innovation and civic tech का, there was no sense of that. I remember going and meeting with, actually in the Sindh government, going and meeting with lots of different, like I would knock on people's doors essentially and go and meet with various government folks, and they just didn't see what I was talking about. And now it's come such a long way. Like the fact that there's a Digital Pakistan initiative at the federal level says that, there's a ton of recognition that good governance and good society are now inextricably linked to the digital, if I am to quote Tom Steinberg, who's sort of the father of civic innovation. I think that realization, like in 7 years, I've seen, like even with the KPIT board, our relationship and the kinds of work that the KPIT board and the KP government have been doing, and the appetite that there is, has grown by leaps and bounds in the last 7 years. And so I am extremely bullish and optimistic about the future. Now, having said that, it doesn't mean that technology is the answer to everything, right? The fact is that a large number of people are able to access things via technology, and technology is a means to make a lot of those things easier for them, like paying their bills online or whatever, what have you. And so we should absolutely be governing through technology and making those things seamless and easy. There's also a large number of people in Pakistan who don't have access to technology, who don't have internet penetration, right? Like there's just like not, they don't have smartphones and all of that. And in Pakistan in particular, it's a society where we have to think about them and we have to be inclusive and bring them along in the journey. So when I say meeting people's needs where they are, it can often look like, SMS-based solutions. It does not have to be like everything requires a smartphone, etc., right? In particular, when we create solutions for people, we have to have the citizen, the user at the heart of it. This is what we do as user-centered design, which means understanding who your audience is and what their needs are. And then don't come up with solutions in a vacuum. Your solutions must cater to the needs of the people that you're trying to serve. So in some cases, it may even look like you having to go in a basti, like going door to door, right? And publishing flyers and handing those out. Like sometimes that's the solution, the right solution, which is to get to your audience. And so, I do think that it requires all of us to be inclusive. Government cannot do this alone and will not be able to do this alone. As I said before, like we have access to something really incredibly special, the way we are trained to think in the private sector, and the kinds of, privilege we've had in terms of being educated and all of these kinds of things. Really, anybody that's watching this, if you have the capability to watch this, that means that you also are endowed with like a lot of skills, which you may not think you do or have, but you absolutely have, and you can use your skills to improving civic services or social impact or whatever it might be. So just I really think it will take all of us to come together, collaborate really, really closely, and and make this entire civic innovation ecosystem happen.
Amazing. All right. So thank you so much for sharing all of that. And what we decided was also like I was actually expecting this conversation to be really full of energy. So we decided to have a call for action. So Sheba, would you like to share the call for action? Because I do see a lot of synergy between different communities where they can participate and be part of the work that you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. And since, things, I'm a very visual person, so you can tell, like, things stick in my brain when I see them written or
Right.
visually. So I put this together. But essentially, there's a number of different ways in which anybody who's watching this can get involved. So, if you are somebody who has a lot of experience in a particular domain, or just like understanding of how to, do product development or user-centered design or what have you, then you can, or even just skills in like how to negotiate with government, how to convince government, and how to build relationships, like soft skills as well. Then you can mentor our fellows, our government innovation fellows. Abhi unko 1 mahina hua hai. There's another 5 months in the fellowship program. You can become like an official mentor, or you can deliver a training session, and all of this is online, so you can be anywhere. And again, you can focus on technical skills or even soft skills, which are hugely important. Second, Huma, you had asked about this earlier. People can contribute to our GitHub projects that are online. And, if you just drop us a line, I have a note at the bottom that has our email address, info@codeforpakistan.org. Then we can also tell you like which of the projects are, depending on what your area of interest is, our technical team can also guide you to which projects you might find interesting to contribute to. Then we have these civic innovation labs in Islamabad and Peshawar. So you can volunteer with one of our civic innovation labs in Islamabad or Peshawar. And again, you don't have to be based in those cities because now everything is happening remotely. Or if you want to set up a Code for Pakistan Civic Innovation Lab, which is a volunteer community group in another city, then please reach out to us. Like, we love hearing from people in other cities that want to essentially start these movements and these civic innovation labs in their cities. So we'll help you get set up. If you're another organization, private sector, civil society, government, whatever, then definitely please reach out, partner with us to collaborate on any of these projects, or if there's a project you want us to help with, please do reach out. And then similarly, we have a lot of events, but our upcoming online civic hackathon will be in September, October, and it'll be an online apps challenge. Would love for you to participate in it and keep an eye out for that. So yeah, those are some of the things. Please reach out, drop us a line. We're also on Facebook, Twitter, etc. So we'd love to, like, this is how we got started. It was through people joining forces. I would not have been able to do anything on my own. It was always through a band of volunteers that was willing to step up and help. And so, would really love for all of you to get involved.
Awesome. Yeah, and I think I second what Sheba has people to start if you're looking to upgrade your skill set, and if you're looking to break into a new trying something new, volunteer is a great way to learn something, and also mentoring someone can also help you learn a ton of stuff. So thank you so much for sharing this, Sheba, and thank you so much for sharing everything about yourself, everything about Code for Pakistan. I'm super excited, and I'm really honored that you decided to take time out of your busy schedule. And this is also my last session with PakTech Summit, so I'm really excited that I'm closing it with on such an exciting conversation, on such an exciting note and call for action. So thank you, really appreciate it.
Huma, thank you so much it's such an honor, and just we should have a session on your own journey if you haven't already. But it's just so touched that you reached out and asked me to be on this and share this work. So thank you so much, and both to you and to Pakistani Women in Computing, and also Ijad Labs and the Pakistan Tech Summit. It's been looks like what has been a fantastic month of talks. So thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, and thank you everyone for watching this. On behalf of Pakistan Tech Summit team, Ijad Lab, and Pakistani Women Computing, I really thank all of you who are watching right now live this session, and who will be joining later. And they may have questions, and hopefully you found this session as exciting and it is for me. So thank you.
Thanks everyone.
Thank you.